The scrapyard of forgotten souls, the dust never settled on Viridian. It hung in the air like a curse, painting everything the color of dried blood. Nyx wrapped her salvaged respirator tighter across her face and climbed higher up the metal debris pile. Boots finding purchase on twisted steel beams that had once been part of something grand. Now, they were just another graveyard marker in a world full of them. She was hunting for power cells, the small cylindrical ones that still held a charge if you were lucky. 3 days without finding anything useful meant 3 days closer to losing her shelter's environmental shield. Without that, the toxic winds would turn her little haven into just another tomb. The wreckage stretched for miles in every direction. Shattered transport ships, broken mining equipment, the skeletal remains of the processing facilities that had sucked Viridian dry before the corporations packed up and left. They had taken everything valuable and abandoned everyone else. Nyx had been 12 when the last ship lifted off without looking back. She was 23 now, and the anger still burned hot enough to keep her warm on cold nights. Something glinted in the fading light. Not the dull gleam of worthless scrap, but something different. She scrambled toward it, hope fluttering dangerously in her chest. Hope was expensive. Hope got you killed, but it wasn't a power cell. It was glass, cracked but intact, part of a cockpit canopy. And beneath it, pressed against the twisted metal frame, was a body. Nyx froze. Bodies were common enough in the wastes. Most scavengers left them alone. The dead had nothing worth taking, and disturbing them felt like inviting their fate. But this body moved. Just barely, a shallow rise and fall of the chest. The flight suit was military-grade, human military, with insignia she recognized from the old days. Fresh blood stained the fabric dark. Nyx should have walked away. Humans had destroyed her world. Humans had promised prosperity and delivered poison. Humans had left her people to starve while they counted profits light years away. Every logical part of her brain screamed to leave him. She knelt beside the wreckage instead. Her hands worked on instinct, clearing debris. Checking for spinal injuries the way her mother had taught her before the sickness took her. The man's face was pale beneath days of stubble, a nasty gash across his temple still seeping. His breathing was labored, probably broken ribs. He was going to die out here. The sandstorm brewing on the horizon would bury him by nightfall. The scavengers who weren't as soft as her would strip his body by morning. The desert would erase him like it erased everything. Nyx pulled the emergency release on his harness. The mechanism was stuck, corroded by Viridian's acidic air. She braced her foot against the frame and pulled harder, muscles burning. The harness finally gave way with a screech of protesting metal. The man was heavy, dead weight against her shoulder. She was strong from years of hauling scrap, but he had at least 50 pounds on her. She managed to get him into a sitting position, then maneuvered him onto her back in a carry her father had taught her for moving injured miners. The wind picked up, carrying the sharp scent of the approaching storm. Nyx's shelter was 2 miles away through treacherous terrain. She had maybe an hour before the sandstorm hit. After that, visibility would drop to 0 and the wind would flay the skin from anyone caught outside. She started walking. Each step sent jolts of pain through her back and legs. The man's head lolled against her shoulder, his breath hot against her neck. She focused on putting one foot in front of the other. Following the markers only she knew, the path she had memorized through years of necessity. Halfway there, she stumbled. Her knee hit sharp metal, and she bit back a cry. The man groaned, stirring slightly. For a moment she thought he might ask where he was or who she was, but he slipped back into unconsciousness, his weight settling heavier against her. The first stinging grains of sand hit her exposed skin. The storm was early. Nyx forced herself to move faster, her lungs burning inside the respirator. The shelter's entrance was camouflaged beneath a fallen transport wing, hidden from raiders and other scavengers. She practically fell through the opening, dragging the human with her. Inside, she slapped the door control. The heavy blast door groaned shut, sealing them in as the storm's full fury arrived. The walls shuddered with each gust. Sand hissed against the metal like a living thing trying to get in. Nyx collapsed beside the unconscious man, gasping for breath. Her arms shook with exhaustion. Blood from her cut knee soaked through her pants. She should tend to that first, should secure her supplies, should do a dozen practical things. Instead, she stared at the human's face in the dim emergency lighting. Even unconscious and injured, there was something about him. Something in the set of his jaw, the way his hand had instinctively curled into a fist even in sleep, like he was still fighting. She had saved his life. She did not know why. She did not know if she would regret it. All she knew was that for the first time in years, she had chosen something other than mere survival. She had chosen to see a person instead of an enemy. Outside, the storm screamed its rage at the world. Inside, Nyx began the work of keeping them both alive. Healing wounds, building trust, Dane woke to pain. It was familiar, almost comforting in its clarity. Pain meant alive. Pain meant mission incomplete. His combat training kicked in before conscious thought, cataloging injuries, assessing threats, calculating escape routes. Broken ribs, check. Concussion, probable. Unknown location, confirmed. He tried to sit up, and his body informed him that was a terrible idea. Do not move unless you want those ribs to puncture something important. The voice was female. Accented with the clipped consonants of Viridian natives, Dane's eyes snapped to the source. She sat cross-legged against the far wall, maybe 15 feet away, backlit by a single glow panel. Young mid-20s, if he had to guess, with dark hair pulled back in a practical braid. Her clothes were layers of mismatched salvage, patched and repatched. A wicked-looking blade rested across her knees, not threatening, just present. "Where am I?" His voice came out as a croak. His throat felt like he had swallowed the desert. "My shelter. 2 miles southwest of where your ship decided to become modern art." She did not move, just watched him with eyes that were too old for her face. "You have been unconscious for 2 days."
Oh, 2 days.
The mission. His squad. Dane's hand went to his chest, searching for his cum unit. Gone, his weapons. Also gone. He was completely at this woman's mercy, and from the way she was looking at him. Mercy was not something she had in abundance. "My team, did you see anyone else?" "There were 5 of us in that transport." Psst, something flickered across her face. Sympathy, maybe? Or just weariness? "I found you alone." "I am sorry." The words hit harder than any physical blow. Jenkins, Rodriguez, Kim, Patterson, dead. All dead. And he was alive because this stranger had pulled him from the wreckage. The guilt was immediate and crushing. Why? The question came out harsher than he intended. "Why save me?" "Your people have every reason to let humans die out here." She tilted her head, considering. "I ask myself that question too. I have not found a good answer yet." She reached beside her and tossed him a water pouch. His reflexes were slow, but he managed to catch it. Drink, slowly. The water was warm and tasted faintly metallic, but it was the best thing Dane had experienced in days. He forced himself to sip rather than gulp, feeling it soothe his ravaged throat. "Nyx," she said after a moment. "This is my home. Small, but the environmental shields work and the water recycler still functions most days." Dane. He looked around properly now. The shelter was indeed small, maybe 20 feet across, curved walls suggesting it was built into an old storage tank. Salvaged equipment lined the walls, organized with surprising care. A sleeping mat in one corner, cooking supplies, a modest stack of ration packs, everything worn but maintained. The home of someone who understood that survival was in the details. His gaze caught on something unexpected. A shelf near the sleeping area held objects that served no practical purpose. A piece of colored glass that caught the light. Twisted metal shaped into something almost artistic. A small plant, somehow alive, in a cracked container. "You collect things," he observed. Nyx's expression shifted, something defensive flickering there. Broken things can still be beautiful. Sometimes more beautiful because they survived being broken. There was weight in those words. Layers of meaning Dane was not sure he was meant to understand. He shifted carefully, testing his limits. The ribs protested but held. His head pounded, but the dizziness was manageable. "You set my ribs. Treated my wounds. It was not a question." I have practice. This world makes doctors of us all, or makes us dead. She stood, fluid and careful, and moved to a small med kit. I need to check your head wound. It was deep. Infection is always a risk. Dane tensed as she approached. Old instincts warred with logic. She had saved him. She had kept him alive for 2 days. If she wanted him dead, he would already be dead. But trust was hard when your world had been built on conflict. Nyx seemed to sense his unease. She stopped just out of reach. I will not hurt you. Despite what you might believe, I do not punish people for the sins of their species. The words stung because they were fair. Dane had seen the reports, read the histories. He knew what the mining corporations had done to Viridian. How they had strip-mined entire continents and left the ecosystem in ruins. He had been part of the military forces that maintained order during the evacuation. He had watched desperate people fight for spots on ships that would never have room for everyone. I am sorry, he said quietly, for what was done here, for what my people did. Nyx's expression was unreadable. Your apology does not bring back the forests. It does not clean the water or cool the air, but it is more than most humans have offered. She knelt beside him, professional now, checking his pupils, examining the wound on his temple with gentle fingers. You will have a scar. I have others. One more will not make much difference. Scars tell stories, Nyx murmured, applying a fresh bandage. Sometimes I think we are all just collections of scars pretending to be whole people. Her face was close now. Close enough that Dane could see the fine lines of exhaustion around her eyes, the small scar bisecting her left eyebrow, the way her lips pressed together in concentration. She smelled like desert wind and recycled air and something else, something uniquely her. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither looked away. Something passed between them, fragile and unnamed. Recognition, maybe. Two people who had survived things they should not have survived, carrying burdens too heavy to share. Nyx pulled back first, standing quickly. You need rest, or rest. Your body is healing, but it needs time. I need to contact my base. They will be searching for survivors. Your equipment was destroyed in the crash. And even if it worked, I would not let you use it. The moment you send a signal, every raider and bounty hunter in 100 miles will converge on this location. I have survived this long by staying invisible. She was right, and Dane hated that she was right. He was trapped here, dependent on someone who had every reason to hate him, in a world that wanted him dead. Shadows of the past. The third morning arrived with the whisper of wind through cracks in the shelter's seal. Nyx was already awake, rationing their water supply. When Dane finally managed to sit up without his vision blurring, progress. His body was remembering how to function.
You dream,
she said without looking at him. You talk in your sleep. What did I say? Names. You call for people to evacuate. You keep saying you are sorry? She turned, holding out a ration bar. The people in your transport, they meant something to you. They were my team. My responsibility. He took the bar, though hunger felt like a betrayal. I was supposed to get them home. Nyx settled against the wall, her usual position. Tell me about them. The request surprised him. For a moment, Dane considered refusing. What right did she have to his grief, to his ghosts? But maybe that was the point. Maybe grief shared was grief survived. Jenkins was the pilot. Best I ever flew with. She could thread a transport through a meteor field blindfolded. Rodriguez was our medic. Always had some joke to lighten the mood even in the worst situations. Kim handled communications, spoke 7 languages, could talk our way out of anything. Patterson was weapons specialist, protective, the kind of person you wanted watching your back. And you were their leader. I was supposed to be. The words tasted bitter. We were running supplies to the outer colonies. Simple mission. But we got caught in a debris field from old mining operations. Shrapnel tore through our hull. Jenkins tried to land, but we broke apart. I remember the impact, then nothing until I woke here. Nyx was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he had heard it. 6 years ago, the mining corporations activated their final extraction protocol. They told us it was one last harvest, that they would restore the land after. They lied. The chemicals they used poisoned the aquifers. The machinery they left behind leaked radiation. Within a year, crops failed. Animals died. People started getting sick. She stared at something Dane could not see, lost in memory. My father worked the processing plants. He believed the corporations, when they said the work was safe, that the exposure limits were fine. He died coughing blood. His lungs turned to stone by toxic dust. My mother lasted another year before the contamination in the water took her. I was 17. My brother was 9. Dane felt the weight of her loss settle over them both. Your brother? Gone. Died of fever 2 years ago. The medicine that could have saved him was on the evacuation ships. The ships that left half full, because loading more people would have cut into profit margins. Her eyes met his, hard and clear. So yes, I understand responsibility. I understand survivors who wish they had died with the people they loved. The parallel was devastating. Different circumstances, same grief. Dane wanted to defend himself, to explain that he had been following orders, that he had tried to help, that not all humans were monsters. But what did his intentions matter against the reality of her loss? I was there, he admitted. During the evacuation, I was assigned to crowd control at the northern spaceport. Nix's body went very still. Which one? Port 7. We held that perimeter for 3 days, while they loaded essential personnel and cargo. The memories were acid. People were dying in line. Children, elderly. We had medical supplies on the ships, but orders said they were for the journey. I watched people beg. I watched them offer everything they had for a chance to leave. We had to turn them away with guns because there were not enough spots. Port 7. Nix's voice had gone flat. That is where my mother took my brother. She thought if they saw how sick he was, they would make an exception. I was out searching for medicine. When I came back, she said the soldiers refused. Said the transport was full. She said one soldier looked like he wanted to help, but in the end he just stood there with his weapon and let them turn away. The implications hung between them like a blade. Dane's hands clenched. I remember a woman with a sick boy. I remember her crying. I remember doing nothing. That was my family you watched die. The words should have come with fury, with violence. Instead, they were just tired, bone deep, exhausted. Nix stood, moving to the far wall. Her shoulders were rigid. Dane rose despite his protesting ribs, moving carefully. Nix, I do not apologize again. Apologies are worthless. But her voice cracked on the last word. He stopped a few feet behind her, close enough to speak quietly, far enough to give her space. You are right. Nothing I say changes what happened. But you need to know I think about them every day. All of them. The ones we turned away. It is why I volunteered for supply runs to the colonies. It is why I kept flying missions even when I could have requested transfer. I thought maybe I could balance the scales somehow. Scales do not balance, Nix said. But she turned to face him. Tears tracked through the dust on her cheeks. Every day I survive feels like theft. Like I stole the life my brother should have had. That is not how it works. Then tell me how it works. Tell me how you carry this.
Ow.
Dane had no answer. He had spent years burying his guilt under duty and discipline. Seeing it reflected in Nix's eyes, stripped away all his defenses. I do not know. I just keep moving forward. I tell myself maybe the next mission will matter. Maybe the next person I help will balance out the ones I failed. Does it work? No, but it is all I have. Nix laughed, a sound edged with desperation. We are both so broken. Two people made of scars and guilt, pretending we can be whole.
Ow.
Maybe that is enough. Maybe broken people keep each other standing. He reached out, slow enough that she could step back if she wanted. She did not move. His fingers brushed her arm, barely contact, just acknowledgement. She covered his hand with hers, and they stood in the shelter's dim light. Two survivors bound by shared ghosts, the moment shattered with the sound outside. Footsteps, multiple people. Voices calling to each other in harsh tones. Nix's hand went to her blade.
Raiders.
They must have tracked you. How? My beacon was destroyed. They do not need beacons. They track military crashes, search the wreckage for salvage and prisoners. Soldiers bring good ransom, eh? Dane moved to the door, peering through the observation slit. 6 figures picking through debris, heavily armed, scanning with portable sensors. Professional hunters, not desperate scavengers. We cannot fight 6, Nick said, and this shelter will not hold if they breach the door. Then we run, in your condition. In my condition, Dane confirmed, because if they find us, they will kill you for helping me. You have risked too much already, Nick studied him, calculating. Then she moved to a concealed panel and started pulling out packs, emergency supplies. There are old maintenance tunnels beneath the scrapyard. They lead to the deep wastes. If we can reach them, we might lose the raiders. Might? The tunnels are unstable. Collapses are common. It is a gamble. Outside, the voices grew closer. They had minutes at most. Dane grabbed one of the packs. A gamble is better than certainty of death. Nix nodded, slinging her pack over her shoulders. She took one last look at her shelter, at the small home she had built from ruins. Then she triggered the secondary exit, a crawl space hidden behind storage crates. They moved into darkness, leaving everything behind, 2 people running from shadows both present and past. Desert Hearts, the tunnel system, was a maze of corroded pipes and crumbling concrete. Remnants of the mining infrastructure that had hollowed out Viridian's continents. Nyx led the way with a handheld light source, its weak beam barely cutting the darkness. Behind her, Dane moved with careful determination despite his injuries. Each breath sent daggers through his ribs. But stopping meant capture. They traveled for hours through the claustrophobic passages, listening for sounds of pursuit. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, rhythmic and lonely. The air tasted like rust and abandonment. How much farther? Dane whispered. The ruins of Temple District are above us. Maybe another mile. We can shelter there tonight. The tunnels eventually opened into a wider chamber, some kind of old junction station. Ancient machinery hulked in the shadows, long dormant. Nyx swept her light across the space, checking for threats. Satisfied, she set down her pack with a tired sigh. Dane collapsed against the nearest wall, his body finally refusing further demands. His vision swam. Nyx was beside him immediately, hands checking his bandages. You are bleeding again. The exertion reopened the head wound. Her fingers were gentle despite her sharp tone. You should have said you were struggling. Would it have mattered? We had to keep moving. Your stubbornness will kill you. Stubbornness keeps me alive. She huffed something that might have been a laugh and pulled medical supplies from her pack. They were dangerously low, Dane noticed. She was using her dwindling resources to keep him functional. The guilt of that sat heavy. I am not worth this, he said quietly. Nyx's hands stilled. What? Your supplies? Your shelter? The risks you keep taking? You should have left me in that wreckage. You would be safe now. Safe is not the same as alive. She resumed cleaning his wound, her touch firmer now. I spent years just surviving, Dane. Breathing, but not living. When I found you, something changed. For the first time since everything fell apart, I had a choice. I could leave you, or I could try to be more than the broken world made me. I chose to try. The words settled between them, vulnerable and honest. Dane caught her wrist gently, stopping her work. She looked up, meeting his gaze in the dim light. You are the bravest person I have ever met, he said, and I am grateful. More than I can express. Something shifted in Nyx's expression. The hardness she carried like armor softened. You are not so bad yourself. For a human. For a soldier, smile flickered. For someone who talks too much in his sleep. I will try to be quieter. Do not. I like knowing I am not alone in the dark. They were close now, the space between them charged with something neither had words for. Dane saw her properly in that moment. Not just the survivor or the scavenger, but the woman. The way her eyes held both strength and sorrow. The curve of her mouth, quick to smile despite everything. The small scar on her chin she touched when thinking Nyx. Her name was a question and an answer. She leaned forward, hesitant, giving him time to pull away. He did not. Their lips met softly, tentative, a question asking permission. The kiss deepened as permission became certainty. Dane's hand came up to cup her face, feeling her lean into the touch. When they finally parted, both were breathing hard. Nyx rested her forehead against his, eyes closed. "This is foolish," she whispered. "We are being hunted. We have no future. This cannot work." "I know." "Then why does it feel like the first right thing I have done in years?" "Because maybe it is." They stayed like that for a long moment, drawing comfort from closeness. Then Nyx pulled back enough to finish bandaging his wound, though her fingers lingered longer than necessary. When she was done, she settled beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Tell me something good," she said. "Something from before everything went wrong." Dane thought back, reaching past the grief and missions. "When I was a kid, my grandmother had this garden. Real earth, real plants, not hydroponic. She grew roses. I used to sit with her while she tended them. She said every flower was a small rebellion against entropy, proof that beautiful things could exist even when the universe tried to tear them apart. Your grandmother was wise. She would have liked you. She always admired stubborn survivors." He paused. "What about you? What do you miss most from before?" Nyx was quiet for a long time. "Music," my mother sang while she cooked. "Old songs passed down through generations. My brother tried to learn, but he was tone deaf, made us all laugh. I have not heard music in years. Sometimes I try to remember the melodies, but they slip away like water. Sing something now." She looked at him, startled. "I cannot. My voice is not, please." "I want to hear you." Slowly, hesitantly, Nyx began to hum. The melody was haunting, minor key, the kind of song that carried the weight of history. Then words came, soft at first, gaining strength. The language was Viridian native, beautiful and complex. Dane did not understand the meaning, but he felt it. Longing and loss and stubborn hope. When she finished, tears tracked silently down her face. Dane pulled her closer, and she came willingly, tucking herself against his side. He wrapped his arm around her, mindful of his ribs. "That was beautiful," he murmured against her hair. "It is a song mothers sing to their children, about finding your way home even when the path is dark." She looked up at him. "I never thought I would sing it again. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it." They sat in the darkness of the old junction station, to people who had lost everything, finding something precious in each other. Outside, the desert winds howled. Above them, raiders searched. Ahead, an uncertain future waited. But in that moment, they had warmth and closeness and the fragile beginning of something that felt like hope. Dane kissed the top of her head. Nyx's fingers traced patterns on his chest, over his heart. Neither spoke. Words would have been inadequate, so they simply held each other as the night deepened. Two broken pieces fitting together in a way that felt almost whole. Eventually, exhaustion claimed them both. They slept curled together, sharing warmth and dreams, guarding each other through the darkness until morning came with its new challenges and its stubborn promise that survival was always worth fighting for. Worth saving dawn filtered through cracks in the ancient structure above them. Painting the junction station in shades of rust and gold, Nyx woke first, momentarily disoriented by the warmth beside her. Then memory returned. Dane. The kiss. The feeling of being seen for the first time in years. She watched him sleep, his face peaceful despite their circumstances. His breathing was stronger, more steady. The soldier's body was remembering how to heal. She let herself have this moment of quiet observation, cataloging details she might need later when he was gone. Because he would leave eventually. They both knew it. Dane's eyes opened, immediately alert. Combat reflexes. But when he saw her, his expression softened into something tender. "Morning," he rasped. "Morning. She should move, create distance, rebuild her armor." Instead, she stayed close. "How do you feel?" "Like I got in a fight with a mountain and lost. But better than yesterday." Sat up slowly, testing his body. We need to keep moving. The raiders will not give up, Nix nodded, already packing their minimal supplies. They had maybe 2 days of water left, less if they had to ration. Food was scarce. The deep wastes offered no shelter and no resources. They were running on borrowed time. They emerged from the tunnels into the Temple District ruins. The area had once been Viridian's cultural heart, grand structures celebrating art and history. Now it was shattered columns and broken mosaics, beauty reduced to rubble. Fitting, Nix thought. Everything beautiful here died. They were crossing an open plaza when the first shot rang out. Dane shoved Nix behind a fallen pillar as stone exploded where they had been standing. 6 figures emerged from the ruins, spreading out with professional precision. The raiders had found them. Stay down, Dane commanded, his soldier persona snapping into place. He checked Nix's pack, found the small pistol she carried. 5 rounds. Against 6 armed hunters, the math was brutal. We cannot win this fight, Nix said. No. But we can buy time. Dane's mind was racing, tactical assessments flowing. There. He pointed to a narrow passage between collapsed buildings. When I draw their fire, you run. Get to the passage, keep going east. There are old settlements that way, people who might help. I am not leaving you. Nix. No. We survive together, or not at all. Before Dane could argue, a voice called out in accented standard. Human soldier. We know you are injured. Surrender, and the local lives. Resist, and we kill you both. A Dane met Nix's eyes. She saw the calculation there, the willingness to sacrifice himself. She grabbed his face, fierce. Do not you dare play hero and leave me alone again. I cannot let them hurt you. Then we fight together, sound interrupted them. Voices, many voices, coming from behind the raiders. Figures emerged from the ruins, 24 at least, Viridian natives armed with whatever they could scavenge. They moved silently, encircling the hunters. An older woman stepped forward, someone Nix recognized. Talia, a former teacher who led one of the larger survivor groups. Her voice rang clear across the plaza. You're trespassing. These are our lands. Leave now or face consequences. The raiders spun, realizing they were surrounded. Their leader, a scarred man with cold eyes, laughed. You think a group of starving locals frightens us? We are hunters. This is what we do. Then hunt. Talia's voice was ice. But know that every local you harm, we will hunt you in return. Every camp you raid, we will burn. Every safe haven you seek, we will poison. You may kill some of us, but we are already dying. What do we have to lose? The standoff stretched. The raiders' weapons tracked between targets. The locals stood firm, refusing to back down. Nix understood what was happening. Her people were choosing to fight back, to stand for something instead of just surviving. The realization made her throat tight. The raider leader spat on the ground. Not worth it. Too much heat, not enough profit. He signaled his team. They withdrew slowly, weapons trained on the crowd, backing toward their vehicles hidden in the ruins. Only when the sound of engines faded did the locals lower their makeshift weapons. Talia approached, studying Dane with shrewd eyes. So this is the human worth fighting for. You came for us, Nix breathed. Why? Because word spreads in the wastes. People talk. They say a local woman saved a human soldier. They say instead of taking revenge, she chose mercy. They say maybe not all humans are destroyers. Talia smiled, tired but genuine. You reminded us we could be more than victims. That is worth protecting. More locals approached, bringing water, food, medical supplies. A young healer insisted on checking Dane's injuries, clucking disapprovingly at the state of his bandages. Children watched with open curiosity, pointing at his uniform, whispering questions. One small girl approached Nix shyly, holding out a salvaged flower made from twisted wire and colored glass. For being brave, she said. Nix accepted the gift with trembling hands. When had she become someone worth looking up to? When had broken become brave? Dane stood beside her, his hand finding hers. The gesture was noticed. People murmured, but not with anger. With something like hope, Talia addressed them both. We cannot offer much. Our resources are limited, our future uncertain. But you are welcome here. Both of you. If you want to stay, help us rebuild. If you want to leave, we will give you supplies and a guide. Dane looked at Nyx. The question was clear. She had saved him. He had shown her not all humans deserved hate. Together, they had proven that choice mattered more than circumstance. I want to stay, Nyx said. This is my home. These are my people. I want to help them survive. Then I stay too.
Dane Square,